Thank you for joining us on this CNBC Africa special. Now, the COVID-19 pandemic has devastated the tourism industry harder than most, with airplanes on the ground, hotels closed, and travel restrictions put in virtually every country around the world. United Nations World Tourism Organization figures show the scale of the destruction will take years to undo. Now, Dubai, home to the world's largest and business airport, has taken its fair share of pain. His Excellency Helal Saeed Almarri, Director General of the Dubai Department of Tourism and Commerce Marketing, joins us to talk about Dubai's strategy to get the tourists back and what the Emirate offers Africa. Your Excellency, thank you for joining us and welcome to CNBC Africa. I wanted to begin perhaps by just getting the extent of the destruction that you have seen in terms of your tourist arrivals, as well as, of course, your ability to be able to get the industry growing in Dubai.
First of all, thanks a lot for having us today. I mean, it goes without saying that, COVID-19 has had a massive impact on the tourism industry worldwide. In Dubai, first of all, we're extremely thankful for the efforts made by all the frontline staff and His Highness Sheikh Hamad bin Rashid Al Maktoum for the decisive decision-making to keep us ahead of this pandemic. We were one of the first countries in the world to shut. We were also one of the first countries in the world to open back up in a very careful and measured way. Dubai is a smart city. It really prides itself on following the data. And I think that approach to following the data has allowed us to really bring back tourism and has allowed us to bring back all of the different industries in the city quite quickly. We found ourselves, like many of the world, in April last year with the airport shut and no tourists coming in. By May, we opened up for domestic tourism. And we've also opened last July for international tourism as well. Last year, we saw 5.5 million visitors visiting the city. That was down from just under 70 million the year before. 6% of those visitors came from Africa, which was similar percentage to previous years. When we look at our top 20 source markets, you see Egypt we got around 170,000 last year, Nigeria around 81,000 tourists, and Sudan around 62,000 tourists. So you can see that the markets stayed pretty stable in terms of percentage, but numbers, as you suggested, were overall down.
Absolutely, absolutely. So when you look at those numbers and now your strategy to try to get the numbers back up again, let's talk about what you are doing around the continent and who you are partnering with.
Look, I think we have to look first of all at Dubai. Dubai, as you know, is the largest air hub in the world. We are very, very diversified when it comes to source markets. We look at every continent. Obviously, Africa is extremely important to us. We currently work with over 3,000 travel partners across the world. We're in continuous dialogue with them all through the pandemic. We've really looked at each market, when they're ready to open, how they open. We have very strict protocols in place in the airport. PCR testing is a must, prior to arrival and in some cases arrival as well. We also, when you look at the traffic we've had coming from places like Nigeria, we can say 50% of that is families. So it's a very big element of what we do is the family tourism. The other side is the business tourism. And as you know, businesses around the world, although these Zoom meetings do very well, people around the world, they like to meet. We reopened the business events sector again in July last year. We had in December the largest IT show in the world, GITEX, and in February we had the largest food show in the world. So we could see that business tourism is coming back very strong. Yeah. 90% of people who attended that felt very safe, and over 50% of them had to quarantine when they went home. Yeah. So it really does show the mixture of tourists coming.
Yeah, I want to talk to you a little bit about your source markets, in particular those that come from the continent. What sort of numbers are you seeing?
Well, as I mentioned, of the 5.5 million visitors we had last year, 6% were from Africa. And again, the largest markets in Africa for us is Egypt, Nigeria. Last year we had Sudan. but we really have people from South Africa, from across Africa, really. The other thing is, on the business tourism side, it really follows the trade. And, when we look at the first half of 2020, actually the trade with Africa returned to pre-COVID levels already by mid-year. And if we look by February 2021, trade with Africa was up around 6.5%. We saw around the 6.5% growth, which was very positive. We're seeing, going forward, at least sort of 10% growth a year. And we really find that business tourism follows that. We've also have an initiative which was started called the World Logistics Passport Initiative, which really helps. It's a loyalty program linked to trade and linked to, linking the mega hubs of trade in the East and the West, including South Africa, who recently joined. And we really do see that that really is helping the growth from Africa. Another important thing to mention is that we have over 17,000 African companies registered with Dubai Chamber. And in DIFC, 5%, which is our financial center, 5% of the companies and 10% of the workforce are from Africa. So with that sort of hub, you can see, the movement of people continue to be very important. And, beyond the leisure tourism, we're seeing a lot of business tourism as well.
Absolutely. I was actually going to talk to you about that. I will come back and talk about the leisure tourism side of it. But I was going to tell you that actually last week there was someone that I was supposed to interview here, and they said they couldn't do the interview because they were relocating to Dubai. So yeah, they are still coming, the Africans, it does seem like, to adding to the 17,000 companies that you are talking about. But what about that leisure tourism side of it? How is that looking? And again, I just wanted an idea of where you're seeing those numbers coming from, where the strongest numbers are coming in.
Look, I think it's been an interesting journey. What we originally said is, we said, look, we're looking at the COVID normal. What we call the COVID normal is the travel in COVID. And again, every week seems to be different, because obviously countries across the world are learning to deal with this pandemic. We in the UAE have been very lucky. Our government has taken a very strict approach with, testing and tracing. Also, the vaccination program is one of the top in the world. So we've had quite a lot of stability here, and our hotels have remained open. What we've found, though, is that depending on the week and the month, different countries are more important. It could be Russia is very strong for 3-4 weeks, and then the UK is strong, and then Nigeria is strong, and then Egypt is strong, and we see this sort of cycle continue. The lucky thing, as I mentioned earlier, is because of our diversified strategy, and because of Emirates Airline and Fly Dubai and the other carriers flying to so many cities across the world, it allows us to switch on and off the different markets. When you look at the hotel sector here, all the leisure hotels by the beach are full. Oh. They've had very good occupancy, and some of them, especially the 5-star, have done exceptionally well over the period. When it comes to the business hotels, definitely through the second and third quarters of 2020, it was a big struggle for them. Yeah. It's stabilized somewhat now, but and I would say they're doing okay, but I wouldn't say they're back to pre-COVID normals by any stretch of the imagination. Yeah. And I do think there is some way to go, and the rest of the world really does need to open up, and normal travel needs to resume for us to see that sort of normalization.
Very interesting numbers, because I can tell you that here in South Africa, here in Johannesburg, actually a stone's throw from some of our biggest hotels, some of them are still closed. They haven't opened at all. You're talking full hotels on the beaches. We wish to get there someday. I wanted us to talk about the collaborations. You said you have 3,000 agents that you work with around the world. On the African continent, what kind of collaborations do you have?
We work extremely closely with the airlines as a first point. Between Emirates Airline and Fly Dubai, they fly to most points in Africa. We also work with the domestic carriers from most of the African countries that have them. In addition to that, a good portion, approximately 6%, similar to the number of travelers, of the 3,000 agents are in Africa. We hold events in Africa very regularly. There have been virtual events. We also host many of the travel agencies over here in Dubai. Mm-hmm. We've been doing that even through the pandemic. And I think we get great support from the industry in Africa. Honestly, it's seen as a very big market for us. The other thing we do is we work with the various business groups, we work with the various councils to try to continue to promote Dubai as a tourism and business hub. Yeah. Radio stations, TV networks. So I think we really try to really follow a 360-degree approach to the continent, and there are so many pockets of interesting businesses that we connect with. Yeah. To try to further our reputation there.
Yeah. So on the business side, you spoke about the number of companies that are resident there. I wanted to know what type of companies would like to position themselves in Dubai and make Dubai a headquarters or a big hub. And then secondly, from around the world as well, I wanted a picture of that.
Look, when you look at Dubai, I think Dubai, first and foremost, is obviously a big financial hub. So many of the companies from Africa, they have their treasuries, they have their procurement divisions, they have their finance divisions here. In addition to that, many companies find it very convenient to have their head office. We have various types of head office. We have global head offices and regional head offices. And as you said earlier, on the guy you wanted to interview, we find that people, especially during COVID, have found it very easy to meet each other and to conduct business here. In terms of the sectors, all of the service sectors, trading sectors, as you know, DP World, which manages many of the ports, across the region. Many people find it, quite convenient to have their trading hubs here. Financial sector, as I mentioned, a lot of fintech companies that conduct a lot of business in Africa are based here. When it comes also to multinationals, you find a lot of the multinationals have their regional and global head offices here as well. So I think it's a big array. One of the things we've seen with Africa is we've developed this remote work program. So the program is essentially we grant a 1-year visa to people who look to work remotely with these decentralized organizations. So they may work in Dubai, but the company, the company they're working for could be in Johannesburg. That's gone very well for us, and we've had a lot of people, moving to Dubai for 6 months, 1 year at a time to do that. Another scheme we have is where people are looking for more long-term residency, such as, we have a 10-year residency program called the Golden Visa Program, and we've seen a number of, very senior individuals from Africa in business choose that as a second residency, so they're able to have a second residency here. So, when they do want to conduct business meetings or they do want to, move parts of their businesses, it's obviously much easier for them. Yeah. So we've seen a whole array, and to be honest, we've seen it across many different African countries, and we continue to see, it is a very high growth area for us.
Absolutely. I was actually going to ask you, which regions are you seeing taking up that offer? The guy I was talking to you, by the way, is in fintech. And as you mentioned, fintech is one of the areas that is getting interest from Africans who want to position themselves out of Dubai. Let's talk a little bit more now about the sort of different types of tourists that you get. Because from our chat, I have worked out you have leisure, you have business, you have family. Can I add religious to that as well?
Look, we are definitely a hub. So, in terms of religious tourism, we do have a lot of people usually using Dubai as a hub to travel to Umrah and Hajj, and that's for sure. I would say, we do get a lot of cultural tourism here because obviously, with the old districts of Dubai, with the museums with the art and everything else, we do get a lot of enthusiasts. We also get, other specific types of leisure tourism. We have, the region's best theme parks, water parks. So you see a lot of people coming for more specific types of tourism. One of the things I should note is that, especially when it comes to Africa and other places, we have an extremely high level of repeat tourism. Our average for repeat tourism within a 12-month period across the globe is over 25%. Obviously, if you extend that to 2 or 3 years, it gets much higher. Now, with that, what we find, especially on the leisure side, is that most people find their own Dubai. Some people traditionally come here for shopping. Yeah. Other people, have been coming here for many years, and as their family grow up, they seem to come for different reasons, and many people have their favorite restaurants, their favorite areas they like visiting, and it develops like that. We take a lot of feedback from the tourists, and we really look at what specifically they need, and we try to make sure that Dubai is continually evolving to meet the needs of the tourists.
Yeah. So we spoke earlier about, so that's on the collaboration side. We spoke earlier about that, and you mentioned that you work with a lot of airlines across the continent. Now, one of the complaints that we hear from African governments and African airlines is that Emirates is too strong, and they need to find a way of partnering with the airline. How is that going, and who do you target for partnerships?
Look, in terms of Emirates Airline, I think they definitely target a number of different people for partnerships. For us, as a tourism and as a government, we actually work with all of the airlines. Okay. And we make sure that we develop schemes and we develop, promotions, with each different airline. We have a specific team for Africa. They are based here. They spend usually on non-COVID period. They would spend about half their time going across Africa. And I think that's proved extremely successful. We see also, Emirates Airline from a leisure tourist perspective obviously has a lot to offer. A lot of the family tourists, for example, they always joke with us that their holiday starts when they get on Emirates because of the entertainment, the in-flight entertainment system and everything else. The only complaint we get is that, kids often say to their parents, I wish the flight lasted longer because they have so much fun. So it is a great tool for us and a great marketing tool. And to be honest, we're extremely proud of our airline.
Yeah, at the risk of being accused of promoting one airline, I shall keep my thoughts to myself. Let's talk about the way you have tackled the COVID-19 pandemic. A number of ideas have been floated around the world, and one that seems to be gaining ground is this whole idea of a travel passport. What are your thoughts on that, and how has Dubai, as a region, in terms of trying to make sure that you keep the tourists coming back, tackled the whole thing around the fear that you get visitors in, you are bringing in the pandemic as well?
Look, I think the bottom line is we've learned a few things dealing with this pandemic. We've definitely been on the front line of it. Dubai, as I said, was one of the first to close. We've taken very decisive action. I would say, first and foremost, you need to follow the data. Dubai is a smart city. We have live, real-time data across every metric you could imagine. It is essential that that data is followed. So to give you a very specific example of that, we set protocols in place for each sector. If you go to a restaurant in Dubai today, tables would need to be 3 meters apart. It would be maximum 7 per table. We had last year over 150,000 inspections across all of the tourist areas to make sure that everybody is complying with the measures. So if the government follows the data, and the second point I would make is consistency. We've followed a very consistent approach to dealing with this pandemic. The government here has been extremely transparent with both the visitor and the resident to make sure that we get full buy-in from the 200 nationalities living here and all the tourists coming of our approach to the pandemic. If you go out in public, you need to wear a mask. We've had that since day one. So these things, people quite quickly learn to live with COVID. And learn that we need to really drive through this pandemic and come out the other side. Obviously, from our perspective, if you couple that with the extreme number of testing we have, which is probably higher per capita than anywhere in the world, and the fast vaccine rollout, we've managed to sort of stay ahead of this and to remain confident. At any time, if we see any risk, we're very easily able to dial back on the precautionary measures, make sure we put more in place. And then when we see the risk comes down, we reduce it again. And you've seen us do that, over the last 12 months very consistently. I think what we are now looking to is, other countries to follow the same suit, because the countries we've opened with, we've seen it's been extremely positive. And, the testing in the airport and, either both sides or one side has definitely reduced the risk tremendously. And we make sure that with the healthcare system we have, which has a lot of capacity, we just make sure that we continue to maintain a very high level of capacity and make sure everybody from the visitors and the public are safe.
And the idea of an electronic passport, is that something that has caught on?
Look, I think if the electronic passport comes, we're in a very strong position to be ahead of that. We have a vaccinated population, high percentage, and we see no issues with that. I think there is a lot of debate globally about it. Is it fair? In my personal opinion, I would say, we need to put protocols in place for people who do not have it, and Dubai will continue to do that. People who have it, there would be maybe different protocols, that's fine. But I firmly believe that we need to continue to give, routes for, people from all countries.
Absolutely. One of the big casualties, of course, of 2020 was the Dubai Expo. And I understand it's going to be held this year. Is that confirmed now?
Yes, it's confirmed. And actually, we have all the international participants in Dubai this week for their meeting. The site is ready. It looks truly impressive, and we look forward to welcoming the world. If you look at some of the countries today that are, and how they're progressing with their preparation, it's very encouraging. It's clear to me that connecting minds, creating the future, which is what the Expo is about, becomes even more prevalent in this post-COVID world. Countries need to come back together. They need to continue to interact. People are looking to meet back with their friends from the various countries, continue to do business, and we're very excited about it. Keep in mind also that this year is the UAE's Golden Jubilee, so we will be celebrating at the end of this year as well. So I think it's definitely an opportune time for everybody to visit, and it's an opportune time for those who've never visited before to make that trip, to see the UAE, to see Dubai, and we'll be ready to welcome the world.
Yeah, just a quick point about that. Are you able to confirm the countries that will be participating just in terms of overall numbers, and were you able to keep them from what you had last year? And also the industries that you're showcasing on it?
Yeah, I mean, I don't actually have the exact number in front of me, but what I can say to you is that, all the countries are in, and, we're seeing, a lot more interest than ever before. I do think this has become a focal point globally, and also, is being perceived very positively by all countries across the world.
And the industries that you're focusing on?
Look, I mean, the Expo has three main pillars, which is sustainability, mobility, and entrepreneurship. And you can see that we are seeing all of the countries and all of the participants putting forward their best foot. So as a visitor to Expo, you would get a tour around the world, and you would see, you would get inspired. What will the future look like? The future is really about the future of our planet, but is also about the future of enterprise, and definitely from an educational perspective, from an entertainment perspective, from a mind-opening perspective, I think it will be second to none. Yeah.
Before you go, I wanted to talk about any sort of spending you are doing on the African continent in terms of trying to grow your presence, your partnerships, and that kind of thing.
Look, we definitely, are investing a lot in the African continent. We invest not only in marketing campaigns, but we co-invest with our partners there, in creating packages for tourists, in creating different at different times of year. For example, during our shopping festival in late December and January, we do special packages and campaigns with across. I think around 10 or 11 African countries. So it really depends on the time of year, but I would say at any time during the whole year, you will find us investing in Africa, even today, and expanding our presence there.
Your Excellency Helal Saeed Almarri, thank you for joining us for that conversation on what Dubai is doing to try to get industry, tourism in particular, going again. He is the Director General of the Dubai Department of Tourism and Commerce Marketing, and he was joining us live from Dubai. Thank you for joining us for this edition of our CNBC Africa Special. Until next time, goodbye.